Then, of course, some people, for example, in the case of these boys, several years went by before they actually came forward and said something, and the court accepted their testimony.
But the point I'm making is this, that if a woman is raped, well, let's say a woman, because that's usually the case. It can be otherwise. But that is why he said usually. It is not always the case, but it is usually the case that a woman is the victim.
And it's not always women either.
But fair enough, that too. But the point I'm trying to make is this. A woman may think for a whole month before she gathers the courage to talk about it. Do you know the trauma when a woman is raped that she's got the decision she's got to make before she comes up with it?
Yeah, John, I agree with you. We agree with the trauma and everything and such, and nobody can deny that kind of what you might call internal tormentation that people go through, where they're not even speaking to anyone, and they're just locked away and keep by themselves. They're not sleeping at night. They're getting panic attacks and all these things. But what Henry was saying early on is that if I'm an investigator and I find your stories lack consistency, there's some inconsistencies in your story, in the evidence that you give to me, then I will have reason to question what you're saying and looking more to see if you are actually if you've been accurate, if you're telling the truth. But if a person, doesn't matter if she reported 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, you can, once she story is consistent at all times and it makes sense, the police wouldn't look at the timeline. They wouldn't look at the timeline that she come and report it. That will make the police, that is not what will make the police believe or not believe the time that you come and report it. What is going to make the police who's doing the investigation is the consistency in the story.
Oh, right. I am agreeing with that. I'm agreeing with that. But yes, when that is so, Clyde, it is obvious that the police will now take that person in for questioning.
Yeah. How do you justify, John, where, let's come straight up. We have a bunch of Catholic priests here who some are doing hard time. Where, let me give you a real crass case. This was reported in the newspaper. These 3 priests pass an 11-year-old boy between themselves, between 3 of them, from the time he was 11 until the time he was 14. Okay. It is only after he got into his 20s that he had the courage and had lost any sense of shame now to come forward and confess that. When the priests were confronted, they didn't deny it.
They didn't deny it?
No.
Well, all is well that ends well.
No.
So it means then that if they didn't deny it, well then the police has got a case.
They're doing hard time, yeah.
Well, all right, the police have got a case. But I just wanted to...
Now, John, before you get to that, would you have advocated that instead of punishment in jail that they should have been counseled and mentally massaged and all that kind of stuff?
I would have thought that the case should be investigated. And on the premise of the investigation, you can then diagnose. And when you diagnose, then you can treat. And treat means, shall I punish you or put you in therapy? Mm-hmm. And I cannot do that until I have thoroughly investigated the case.
I agree with you. However, while we're doing all of this, where does the victim stand?
Well, the victim is still in therapy, because the victim's emotions would be terribly hurt, and therefore you owe the victim a form of treatment as well. Therapy.
John, that's the only person who is owed the treatment.
That is not true.
Wait a minute, man. Some of those people will be traumatized for the rest of their natural life and probably beyond. And a lot of times it is the shame of mentioning that that bring. For example, I have always counseled women who on us, those who are divorced or widowed, and they have young daughters, to be very, very careful with the fellas that they bring into their house. I had a second.
No, that is discrimination.
Yes. So what?
I mean, on your part.
Yes.
Tell me how.
And if
you could explain to me why it is discrimination, what in your opinion, maybe even if I agree with you that it is discrimination, I want to hear your reasons for saying it is discrimination.
Because
we might both agree it's discrimination, but our reasons for saying that might be different.
Well, okay, my reason
I don't
for saying
agree with discrimination. There's some
Let me hear you, John.
All right, just let me make my point as to why I condemn it as discrimination. A woman comes to me, a therapist, whether I am a male therapist or a female therapist. She is now widowed. She has a daughter, and she's taken another man in her life. And immediately I am telling her, be careful with that man. That is discrimination. It is unreal. You are immediately stating that this man is a criminal. It is being prejudiced.
Yes, so what?
So what?
Yeah.
You don't want...
Christ wasn't prejudice?
It is prejudice because you are assuming that she and her daughter are two angels, two saints, and this demon from hell that has now entered your premises, watch him.
No, that's not your assessment. But being prejudiced or being discriminatory. Listen to me. But what I'm saying to you, John, there are sometimes we have to be prejudiced. We have to discriminate. We have to, of course. Yes. Well, you can say that. You can say that discrimination is not a bad word. Too many times we try to treat discrimination as if it's something bad or good. When you discriminate, you must discriminate dispassionately at a certain sense of level. Nothing is wrong in telling your children which company to keep in school and which not to keep. Nothing is wrong with a woman choosing what kind of man she will want to marry or not. That's a form of discrimination, and nothing is wrong with that. If a person gets into a relationship, she just loses her husband, and she says she's not getting into a relationship, and someone tell her, look, take it easy. I think you should tread cautiously on this, because you know your last relationship, it was a stormy one, it wasn't so good.
No, it might have been a very good one.
I hope you learn from it. No,
George, you are introducing something that was not put before the court. John, it was never said that she said that she's widowed.
John, let me chime in here. I had a secretary who in my office shared with me that she and her husband were divorced for several years, and she had dated a man, and he was an overnight guest. I'm not condemning her for that. Well, one morning when she was getting breakfast, one of her daughters came out of the daughter's bedroom, and the fella stopped talking to her and said, "Ooh, man, your daughter looks good."
All right, you got evidence.
Okay, and guess what? She terminated that relationship.
All right,
I don't blame her. She did the right thing.
I don't blame her.
But
she had evidence.
Right. But would you agree with me, John, that it's good to discriminate?
It depends on the form of discrimination.
Well, you just said a while ago, as a counselor, you can't discriminate. You have to. There are times in life you have to discriminate. If, for instance, your daughter, hold it, you were saying that woman and her daughter, that woman there, she will have to discriminate about the kinds of men that she did, because she have probably a teenage daughter in her house. She will also have to teach her daughter to discriminate about the kinds of guys to date. So she can't just say, I can't discriminate, I'm going to date any and any guy. She has to discriminate.
No, wait a minute. I think we're getting lost here. Here is a case before me. I don't flip from case to case and bring X case into Y, except it has a similarity which I use for support. I heard that the woman had a daughter and she was widowed. And she told the girl, or she was informed to tell the girl something, be careful with that man.
What's wrong
because
with that?
Because the girl was looking good. That is not the action of a therapist. Because what you are saying right away is, you are two people here who need to protect yourselves, and this man that is coming in here is a centipede. Watch him.
Okay, how about you do
that is being prejudiced.
Okay. Let me tell you how John, tell me how you will have done it.
I would have said to the lady, because she would probably be my my client. I would have said to her, do you talk to your daughter about the opposite sex? She's becoming a big girl now. And I would go down that line. I would never mention the man that is there.
John, you are so naive. I don't care. You're so naive on some issues because there are a lot of subtleties that happen. The guy begins to give her gifts and shower gifts on her, arranges to be home sometimes by himself with her. And
wait a minute. Before you go any further, was that part of the case?
It's been part of other cases.
Well, then you can't take other cases and put on this one. You can't do that.
John, okay, he's talking about this, but see, it's a situation here. I personally don't see anything wrong in I saying, John, be careful of that woman. I see something in her, but that woman that you come and introduce me to, John, from the time she speak the first sentence, I would have picked up something you didn't pick up. The minute she introduced herself to me, and she would have uttered the first sentence, through certain experience and things that I've gone through and situation I would have been in, I would have picked up something that you didn't pick up, and I would say to you, John, be careful to that woman. I see nothing wrong in that.
Well, which woman now you're talking about?
No,
are we talking?
No. Hold it a second. I'm just trying to list an example to what Reverend Henry was saying a while ago when he said, be careful of that man. No, I said if you had introduced me to a woman, it's quite possible you could come and introduce me to a woman, and you can tell me you found a new love, this is a new relationship you're building with this woman. And I can tell you from the time you introduce her to me, this is just an example, a drawing.
Yeah.
And from the time I will introduce herself and she would have uttered the first sentence, it's quite possible I would have picked up something in her body language, her tone, her choice of words that you would not have picked up. And I would have said to you, John, as my friend, be careful of that woman. Is that discrimination?
Wait a minute. Just hold it. You are a counselor? When I say that, no, I'm going to get back now the same scenario. Would she come to you as her counselor?
No, she may come to me as a friend.
No, yeah, but no, but
you introduce a person to me as a friend.
Hold it. If you are her friend, I would not hold you to any ethical behavior. But if you are a counselor and she's coming to you, you dare not tell her, be careful with that man.
Why not?
Because first of all, you have insulted her choice.
No.
She chose, there we go. She chose him after her husband died. This is someone that she has chosen and brought into her home. You, in your own judgment, look and see that she's got a nice looking young daughter, and you are telling her be careful with the man. Don't you know it could be seen that you are the one who need counseling?
No,
because
John,
that's what you see the
John,
girl.
no, hang on, man. There've been a couple of times I refused to do a couple of weddings because I did not feel that I wanted to do those weddings, and I don't want to divulge the circumstances.
But I don't want you to. It will be unnatural.
But I did not do them.
But did you explain to them why?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. No problem.
Not in detail, but
I did not. Tell us. It doesn't concern us.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get on the air and tell you why.
But
it was a judgment call on my part.
Clyde, I am a professional counselor. I would not expect you to do that. I wouldn't expect you to come here to tell me. I would think very little of what you did.
Mm-hmm. No. Let's get back to the meat of the discussion.
Original discussion.
Yeah, but I like the discourse because the discourse really set the stage for the true meat of the discussion. The discourse was good. Now, in terms of treating the perpetrators of these crimes, and sometimes, treatment at times could see as a reward, and I'll tell you how. If you take such a person is being arrested, you take that person, you counsel, you put them in prison, then you start to train them, you try to get them to change their life and so on. And in sometimes by doing that, instead of the person it will appear that the person was not punished. They was rewarded for what they was done for what they would have done, because now they would have changed their life and filter back into society as a legitimate member of society, now taking their role. And you know what? The victim going on for 10, 20 years with this cancer inside eating them. So sometimes with counseling, I believe there should be a severe penalty for the crime that you've committed. You have to be told that you cannot violate the trust of a human being. You cannot force a human being to do something that they don't want to do, but something that gives you pleasure. You don't care about how they feel. You have to know there is a price that you have to pay for that, in no uncertain terms.
All right. Let me put a question to Clyde. I wouldn't put this question to you, George. I would put it to Clyde.
Yeah.
Clyde, I am sure that you are quite familiar with the story of a woman who had violated the laws of her land. And that is to have been caught in the act of adultery.
Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with the story?
Say again?
So I'm not familiar with the story either?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
I said that I wouldn't put the question. I said I would not put the question.
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. Go ahead. I would
put it to Clyde.
I know what you, yeah.
Clyde being a minister of the law.
Yes. I know.
And Jesus, who is reported to be the very Son of God, had reasons to interact with that woman. When some senior people of the state confronted him with the question, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. Should she be stoned? And Jesus, who was all purity and reported to be God himself, said to them, after pausing for a little while and apparently giving them time to think, and as the scripture goes, he sat down there and wrote in the sand, and I have read where he was writing sins that they themselves were guilty of.
That's speculation.
He got up and said, he that is among you without sin, cast the first stone at her. And he went back down and continued writing. When he got up, there were all gone. The woman was still there. And he turned to the woman and he asked her, where are your accusers? She said, sir, I have not any. And Jesus did not say you were caught in the act of adultery, you shall be stoned. He said, neither do I accuse you. Go and sin
John,
no more.
That's tangential to our initial discussion. But let me tell you what was going on there. First of all, the act was something that needed to be committed by two people and not just one person.
Right.
And that was a great human rights judgment that Jesus gave. Why didn't they bring the fella also? Okay.
I just want to come in here. Yeah, I just want to come in here. The thing about it is that even they committed something wrong, both consented to the wrong. But what we're discussing here tonight, we're speaking about a person who forced an act upon somebody. This was not a situation where one person forced herself on one another. And I don't know how this would have bear relevance in what we are discussing here tonight. We're speaking here of a victim and a perpetrator. In this case, with this woman who was caught in the act of adultery, they both were victims or perpetrators. They cooperated, both of them, right, would have done a wrong. And we are speaking here tonight where I would have hold a little 5-year-old girl against her will, rape her, and then slice her throat. This is the kind of thing that we're talking here tonight. And how would they treat with such an individual who would have committed an act like this?
Cut his throat too.
Hold on a minute. George, let me ask you a question now since you said that. Would you do that, George? Huh?
No, I wouldn't say I would do that. Come on, it's far-fetched. It's ridiculous. But what I'm saying to you, I'm speaking of an individual. So I just called, said, how would you treat him? How would you treat George? If George was to do that, how should be George dealt with? If George was
20 years in jail.
Despicable.
George, that is the question.
Discuss that. No, let's hold it.
George,
right
I want to answer that question.
Right, hold it. Now, let's say something. We're going to go for a break. I want to take it after the break. I just throw it out so that you can get your thoughts together. And when you come back, we're going to deal with it because we are boring at 9 o'clock. So I throw that out. And when you come back, gather your ammunition. And we are going to deal with it. Question when we come back. So we'll go for a break, and then we'll turn with the discussion.
Good. And okay, at this point, I should read the contacts, how we can be accessed. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to CCV Radio, and if you're not, here is what you can do. You can log into us, or if you are on, here is how you can make a contribution by calling us. Those brothers and sisters in the United States of America, your number to access the station is 718-879-5560, extension 303. That contact number again for our brothers and sisters in the United States, 718-879-5560, extension 303. Our brothers and sisters in Canada, 416-800-0392, extension 947. That's for Canada. 416-800-0392, extension 947. Our brothers and sisters in London, 44203-3182, 44208-2614. That number again, 44203-318-2614. That's for our brothers and sisters in London. If you're calling us on MSN, it's ccv@ccvradio.com. That's MSN. ccv@ccvradio.com. On Facebook or Skype, for access, take it. CCV Radio, that is Facebook or Skype. CCV Radio. We look forward to hearing you. Please send us your emails, and hopefully we'll read them through, and we'll be back with you after the break.